Okay. So we had to change the URL last minute. So hopefully people are going to find us. Oh, we already have someone. Arturo. Ciao, ciao. Hello, everyone. I'll be honest with you guys. I've been traveling and we keep the session always the same time, always the same day of the week. So I didn't want to miss out, didn't want to miss it. Sound is choppy. Oh, God. Yeah, I'm using a VPN. So hopefully it's not too bad. Is it really bad? Do you understand? Okay, Mark said it's fine. I'm so sorry. This week, I am very far, and yeah, I cannot connect to the internet. I need a VPN, so that's making things worse in terms of connection, the sound, and I think there would be a bit of a delay. Hopefully, not too bad. All right. So shoot some questions. Delle domande. Vorrei delle domande so I can tackle them head on like a soldier. Let me see. Yes, and I won't have the whiteboard unless yeah. So I will use the chat. My idea is to use the chat to if I have to write anything down. So don't be shy. Write down some questions so I can so I know what to tackle, or if there's any topic in particular that you need to that you're curious about. Hello? I don't see any questions. Can you explain the use of SI and SIA? Yeah. Okay. I realize now that the delay might be even longer than I thought between me speaking and me reading the chats back. The use of SI and SIA. SIA. Arturo, hai un esempio? SI and SIA sono parole diverse, si usano in contesti diversi. So I'm struggling to find the item that connects SI and SIA. SIA is the subjunctive. Spero che tu sia onesto. So, spero che tu sia arrivato a casa sano e salvo. Spero che tu sia in salute. Credo che tu sia in errore. Penso che lei sia a Roma. So these are all examples of subjunctive. Spero che tu sia arrivato. Spero che tu sia in salute. Credo che tu sia in errore. Penso che lei sia a Roma. So all these examples are different, but they all have something in common. Two things. The first thing that they all have in common is that these sentences are made up of two clauses. The main clause and then a subordinate clause. The main clause says, I think that, I hope that, I believe that. And then there is the subordinate clause. So the subordinate clause is something like, you arrived home, or you are in Rome, or that you are mistaken. So for example, I believe that you are mistaken. So I believe is the main clause, and then that you are mistaken is the subordinate clause. That's dependent on the main clause. Now, whenever we have a main clause and the subordinate clause, then there is the possibility that we're going to have to use the subjunctive. How do we know if we need to use the subjunctive or not? Well, it depends on the level of certainty that we put in our clause, in the subordinate clause. So if the main clause has a verb like I hope, I think, I believe, I guess, then we know that we are going to need to use the subjunctive in the subordinate clause. Sia is the verb to be, only subjunctive. So you will hear Italians say, spero che tu sia in salute, as opposed to spero che tu sei in salute, which would be the normal you are indicative, so no subjunctive. However, you will hear a lot of Italians use the indicative even when they shouldn't, right? So, I believe that you are correct. In Italian, you should be using the subjunctive because we're not sure. I believe is just a belief. So, credo che tu sia, che tu abbia ragione, che tu sia in errore, eccetera. you use the subjunctive. But you will hear also, credo che tu sei, blah, blah, blah. So SIA is subjunctive, the verb to be. First, second, and third person singular. Che io sia, che tu sia, che lui sia, che lei sia. Si is a complete different thing. So it's got nothing to do with sia. Si can be one of many things in Italian. So the use of si, that's not clear. Arturo, you're going to have to be more specific about what you don't understand about si, because that's a whole new constellation of ideas and topics. Write it down in the chat if you have another question. We have Ayush, ciao. Ciao a te, benvenuto, benvenuta. Mark, the use of ci and ne. Ci and ne, okay. I can explain the use in a few words, give a few examples, but ci and ne require a lot of knowledge to understand. But I can touch upon that, of course. Sì, era importante per me. Grazie, perfetto. Grazie a te, Arturo. Grazie. 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 Prego. Gracias. I think it's could be Spanish. I'm not sure. Maybe it's like a mix. Spieghi in italiano, per favore. Ayush chiede se spiego in italiano. Cosa? Dimmi cosa vorresti che io spiegassi in italiano. Yeah, so if there's anything specific that you want me to explain in Italian, let me know. And please let me know your preferences. So if somebody asks me a question, I don't know, explain to me ne. Let me know if you want me to speak Italian, speak English, speak more slowly, more quickly. I can try to abide. Ciao from Italy, Amedeo. Ciao. Also asked about ci ne. Ci ne. Okay. Ci e ne. È importante studiare passato remoto? No. That's a very simple question. No. Absolutely not important. I like to use it, but just because I'm weird. Normally in Italian, you don't use passato remoto, so forget it. Go to Milan and spend a week there, and every time you hear passato remoto, jump or do something, do a push-up, you would do no push-ups. Like nobody uses it. So ci e ne. Ci e ne are two pronouns. Sono due pronomi in italiano. Sono due pronomi difficili. And they are difficult because, as I said, they rely on a lot of knowledge. So it's a little bit like explaining a chemical reaction to someone that doesn't know any chemistry. So we need to start from the elements, and then we need to see how the elements come together. And then we can see how elements can come together with other elements. In particular, but try not, in particular, but try not to be too philosophical about the question, right? So someone is asking, okay, tell me about their use. Ne is used in 2 or 3 different ways. Ci is more complex because it's used in 4 or 5 or 6 different ways. So let's start with ne. Ne voglio un po'. You will hear this a lot. So you will hear this a lot. So I could ask you, or someone could ask you, ne vuoi un po'? This means, do you want some of it? Some of it? So that needs to be clear from the content. I want to ask you if you want some of the pizza. So I can ask you, do you want some of it? This would be the question in English, right? Do you want it? Do you want some of it? This of it. Yes, usiamo ne per quantità. Yeah, I think you get it. So of it, exactly. Do you want some of it? In Italian, you ask, vuoi un po'? So do you want some of it? Ne. So that ne is a collapsed form of di questo or di quello. Because someone could just say, vuoi un po' di questa? Vuoi un po' di pizza? Vuoi un po' di pane? Or you use the pronoun and say, ne vuoi un po'? Ne, of it. Yeah, so that's one way. This is one way. So quantity, it isn't necessarily, but we're talking about a fraction of something. Let me do a quick yeah. So complemento partitivo. I invite you to write it down and research it. Complemento partitivo. Il complemento partitivo is exactly a prepositional phrase to do with a partition of something, that of something we use the ne for it. So 3 fette di torta. 3 fette di torta. 1 chilo di pane. So these are 2 examples of where we would use ne. Ne vuoi? Quanto ne vuoi? Ne, if we're talking about slices of cake, fette di torta, I can ask quante ne vuoi, which means how many do you want of these, of the cake, of the slices. Quanto ne vuoi? Quanto ne vuoi di pane? So, complemento partitivo. This is something that is very common, and this is one way in which we can use ne. So ne, I would like you to think of it as a collapsed form of a prepositional phrase, of something. Now, the reason why we are picking on these examples to sets is not because in language, in English, in Italian, you can have many scenarios where you have of something. For example, this cake is the cake of, I don't know, Luke. But in that case, you will never use ne, because the logic of that phrase is completely different. We're not talking about partitions. We're talking about belonging or, ownership. So is this clear? Is it clear that this is one way in which we can use ne? Quale squadra lei tifa? Anar. Ciao Anar. Quale squadra lei tifa? Grazie per avermi dato del lei. Dare del lei, the polite form. Anna is using the polite form, which is very good practice. It shows respect. Remember, Anna, that in Italian, questions don't really look like questions. You just add a question mark. So you changed sorry, forget about, just got confused. Quale squadra lei tifa? In this scenario, it would be best to say quale squadre tifa lei? Or simply quale squadre tifa? However, I will say this, because the question is not the type of question that you would ask, in a formal setting. It's usually spoken without formal or without polite form. So, quale squadre tifi? Quali squadre tifi? O quale squadra tifi? And the team, the word squadra, and the question is very common in Italian. What's omitted is football, obviously. If you support. So I'm sorry that the answer is I'm not a huge fan of football. I like I did rowing, but I like violent sports, and football is not violent enough for me. Spieghi in italiano qualsiasi cosa. No. Allora, spiegare in italiano tutto non va bene, perché certi argomenti sono difficili, altri sono facili. Also, if someone asks a question in English, I'm replying in English. If someone asks the question in Italian, I reply in Italian, or, honestly, just if you have anything specific to ask me in Italian, or ask me to answer, but I'm not going to explain everything in Italian. And I hope that it's clear why, because there's different people with different needs, and I think it's very good for the ego sometimes, but not very good for learning. If there's something that conceptually someone is struggling with, there's no point in adding an extra layer of complexity by speaking in Italian. On the other hand, if you are already quite advanced, then you might need someone to speak to you in Italian. Quindi, se mi fai una domanda in italiano, specificando che vuoi che io parli in italiano, allora posso decidere di parlare a te in italiano. Okay. Per favore. That's very good, very polite. Please. Not many Italians use the words per favore, per piacere, per cortesia. So these are very good words to use. Very, very good. Per favore, piacere, per piacere, per cortesia. And these three are absolutely interchangeable. Va bene, grazie mille. Perfect. Penso che il tuo italiano sia già buono, quindi quando e se chiederai nel futuro domande in italiano, ti risponderò in italiano. Quale squadra tifa? Nothing. Speak in italiano. What if I'm asking this question someone I'm not close with or meeting for the first time? Then you're right. Yeah. Then you use the polite form. Quale squadra tifa? Quali squadre tifa? That's true. Going back to ne, and then I'm going to end the conversation about ne. So one big reason to use ne is when it comes to partitions, subsets. Quante ne vuoi? Ne voglio 3. Okay. Another one is when we come from somewhere. We come from somewhere. So for example, I'm going to write them down in the chat, the examples, but I'm also going to speak them. So, vengo da Roma. Vieni da Napoli. That's it. Let's just add one more example. Viene dalla Russia. Okay. So, by the way, the third one is not an Italian city. That's the country, Russia. The second one is Naples, an Italian city, although I know there's various Naples in America as well. And Roma, it's Rome. Now, I could ask you, I could ask you a question such as, Sei andato a scuola? Sei andato al lavoro oggi? Sei andato al lavoro oggi? I could say sì. Vengo adesso dal lavoro. So, this is important. These sentences look easy, but I'm using them to explain concepts that are not easy. One of them is ne. So we've seen how ne is a collapsed version of it when it comes to partitions. Okay. Another way to explain this, or another use, is when we are coming from somewhere. So, sei andato al lavoro oggi? Did you go to work today? And the answer that follows is sì, vengo adesso dal lavoro. Or torno adesso dal lavoro. This sentence doesn't really sound correct. I mean, it does explain things and the grammar is okay, but it's very rare that an Italian would say that. It's very unlikely that an Italian would utter those words. Ne vengo adesso. In other words, ne in this case means I come from it. So before we had of it, 3 slices of cake. Now we have from it, from somewhere. Ne vengo. This is a crucial example to explain that ne can also mean vengo from some place that we have just spoken about. Because obviously, if it's a pronoun, you are omitting, you're basically taking for granted certain things, right? If you mention, like you mention, did you go to school? Then you can say, sì, ne vengo adesso. Sì, vengo adesso dalla scuola, from school. I've just come back. Grazie, teacher. Grazie, student. I think it's Korean. Yeah, I cannot read Korean. Yeah, so I hope that ne is somewhat more clear than it was when I started talking about it. Devo partire, ci vediamo settimana prossima. Careful, Mark, with the, what would you call it? When you have a noun, an adjective, and everything has to sort of line up, right? Agreement, right? So we need agreement between the noun and the adjective. Settimana prossima. Ci vediamo la settimana prossima. Devo partire. Guys, yeah, it's been already 40 minutes, so I think I'm gonna close it here. Ciao Mark, buona giornata. Prossima. Great stuff. Do you guys have any last minute questions? I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna wait 30 seconds. And then if you don't have any more questions, I think you can ponder over what we've covered in this session. We've covered quite a few things, and then we can do work to improve our Italian, in the coming week. And then if you're still struggling with something, or if you don't, but if you have questions, you can come over next week. Grazie mille, Mark. That's good. I think people are happy with Mark because he asked the question related to ne, which is a very tough topic. ottimo classe, ottima, ottima. Again, Arturo, the agreement. Bravo, grazie. Grazie a te, grazie a voi. È sempre un piacere fare queste sessioni. Mi più di fare i video perché è più naturale e penso che aiuti anche di più. Cosa è routine di live streaming? Va bene, ottima classe. It's a strange thing because in this case, ottima classe is perfect. Classe ottima would also work. You know, sometimes in Italian you have this these particular situations where it doesn't matter where you put the adjective, it just works. Ayush is asking, cosa è routine di live streaming? Oh, vuoi sapere qual è la routine? So what kind of routine do we have in place? So routine, I would call it programma. I know that programma can have lots of meanings. So for example, computer program, un programma. But in this case, in Italian, when you talk about a routine, you want to know about il programma. So it can also mean routine. We have a very, 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 very easy to remember routine. Every Sunday at 2 p.m. GMT, we sit down and basically I'm answering questions related to Italian. That's my expertise. So you can ask any question, but you might not get very good answers unless they are related to Italian. Grazie maestro, grazie per la spiegazione. Grazie a te Anar, è un piacere. Grazie mille. Ayush, grazie anche a te. Va bene, non ci sono altre domande. Ci vediamo la prossima volta. Il nome del maestro è un segreto. Mi chiamo Claudio. Allora, ogni domenica alle 2 del pomeriggio GMT. Molto bravo con gli esempi, grazie. Grazie. Penso che posso migliorare. Se hai tu degli esempi, se avete voi degli esempi, nel futuro potete sempre fare l'opposto, dare a me gli esempi e poi possiamo discutere di qualche cosa che non è chiara. Gli esempi. Va bene. Ragazzi, vi saluto perché sono stanco e ci vediamo la prossima volta. Ci vediamo la settimana prossima. Buongiorno, grazie Claudio. Grazie a te. Un saluto caro e una buona settimana a tutti. E buon italiano. Mettete il mi piace sui video così che più persone arrivano e più ci saranno domande più o meno coinvolgenti. Buona domenica, buona domenica. Esatto, con la D minuscola in italiano. Perfetto. Grazie a tutti, ciao ciao.